A lot of brands have been doing collabs these days. The biggest one that's going on right now is the Oreo Coca-Cola collab, where the Oreo tastes like Coke and the Coke tastes like Oreo. So I asked you what reverse food should I make because I was inspired. And overwhelmingly, the top choice is cookie milk and milk flavored cereal. Guys, I'm an idiot. What I meant to type was cereal that tasted like milk and milk that tasted like cereal. So yeah, since I gave you guys an inadequate choice, I am just gonna make all three of them. Yeah, so let's get right into it. We're going to be doing three reverse recipes and they all have questionable results. So they're just putting that out there. First up, we're making cereal flavored milk and milk flavored cereal. As you can tell, I've made milk flakes as well as milk loops. So what I did was I'm going to start with the milk that tastes like cereal. I'm going to get a bunch of cereals and basically beat the snot out of it the same way Lilo beat up her nemesis. And now we're going to start crafting the milk. Long story short, we're going to be using a lot of food coloring, starting with the yellow one, and I'm going to be putting the pops in there. I'm just going to mix it up very, very slowly with my chopstick. Fun fact, chopsticks are a great tool to not just eat, but to like mix things and get into small containers. But anyways, I'm going to mix that. I put the corn pop in there, I think, or is it Kix? I'm not sure what kind of cereal that was. And then I did it for the Fruit Loops. Fruit Loops are going to be red because they just seem like they should be red. And then I made the Frosted Flakes blue, and then I made the Apple Jacks, which I've never eaten Apple Jacks before, but I made it green, and it didn't really come out green. It looked blue. And then for the orange, I made the, what is this? It's Fruity Pebbles, but not the Cocoa Pebbles. Yeah. Plot twist, that one came out a really poopy color, and that is what made my results turn out terribly. But here's a little rainbow that I made. I think it looks super cute. Time to make the milk that tastes like, time to make the cereal that tastes like milk. You're gonna start off by making milk cookies, and if you're lactose intolerant, I apologize in advance because these are very milky. But basically, you're gonna be using lard and or shortening, depending on which one you have. I had lard, so I use lard. And then we're going to be using, this is condensed sweetened milk because we want the whitest cookie you have ever seen in your life, okay? We want this whiter than fresh snow. We want this whiter than President Snow. We want this whiter than the snow that people, when they're doing fun things, okay? But yeah, you're going to mix that together. For some reason, I refused to get a mixer. I feel like one of my friends made a comment that was like, you're using a lot of hand mixers these days. And I was like, you know what? I have muscles too. I do not have muscles. But yeah, I was working really hard to mix it. And I thought it would be easy because the lard was melty. It was not. Anyways, you add your flour. You add 2 cups, I think. No, actually, the recipe I used said just add at least 2 cups. But I added a lot more than that. And then, of course, we're going to add more milk because we want this to taste like milk. And as a side note, it really did. It was such a good cookie. It melts in your mouth when you eat it. It was really good. And it definitely tasted like milk. But it's a super soft dough, which was very annoying because I had to add more flour. I kept on having to add more flour. And at some point, I just gave up and rolled it out. As you can see, my rolling pin is sticky. Not in that way. But yeah, I just roll it out with some more flour. And then I thought it would be super cool to make like a Fruit Loop shape. So I was like, you know what I'm going to do? I'm gonna cut it out. So I found a bottle cap for I think like my oyster sauce or something, and I cut it out and I was like, look at these perfect circles, it's gonna be so amazing. And I was like, you know what, we're gonna make Fruit Loops. So I took my little chopstick and I started poking holes in there because I assume that's how they make Fruit Loops. They poke chopstick holes into every single circular cutout. And you know what happened when I baked it? Guess what happened when I put this in the oven? I was like, I was smart. I was like, let me do a taster. But look what happened. It spread like crazy. And that's to be expected. So I made a smaller one and it continued spreading. So all those circles that I cut out, useless. I had to end up making tiny little balls anyway. So yeah, I rolled it out, put it in the oven. And then as soon as it baked for like 3 minutes, I had to like poke the holes immediately. Otherwise it would harden and then break when I tried to poke the holes in. So all in all, it was very annoying. It was very annoying, but the cookie's delicious, but it was a very annoying dough. But we move. Then I realized, I was like, oh, you know what else? Let me make something milky-er. So I decided to make milk-flavored boba. If you've never had it before, neither have I. But it actually turned out pretty good. And basically, it's just milk and sugar. And then you add a whole bunch of tapioca powder. And you just have to stir a lot because it gets sticky. And it just wants to get stuck on it. Looking at this now, it looks kind of questionable. But anyways, it's really sticky and white, and it just gets stuck everywhere. So you just have to keep mixing it until it gets even stickier. And then you're just gonna dump more tapioca powder in it and hope for the best as you mix it, that it comes together in a dough. And then at some point, your spoon is not gonna work, so you have to use your hands, and it sucks because your hands are soft and this is really hot, and which is why I'm really glad I use gloves because otherwise my hands would just burn like crazy. But yeah, you gotta keep rolling this until it becomes like a dough, and you're gonna see it's like a very nice white dough. I like to play with it like a little ball. It feels like Play-Doh. It feels very good. But then you're gonna cut it into little pieces because you have to make the boba. And making boba by hand is super annoying because after you make the dough, you're supposed to stretch it out and then roll it up and then cut it into little pieces, and then you have to cut it into a little ball. I was lazy, okay, because this boba does not need to be pretty. It is for me and maybe one of my friends who comes over if they want to try it. So it does not have to be pretty. So I literally just like rolled it randomly. The sizes are inconsistent, but that doesn't matter. You're gonna stick your boba in some boiling hot water. Look at that, it looks really good. And then when it's done cooking, that's how it looks. And guys, this actually tasted really good. I'm not gonna lie to you, it tasted great. But to keep it from sticking together, I'm gonna add more milk powder, and then I'm gonna add some sugar, and you're just gonna stir it around. Basically, for regular boba, you do this with like brown sugar, but you know, we want this to be milky and white. So yeah. And then finally we get to go back to our milk, and guys, the milk looks super great. This is the orange one. As you can tell, it was not orange because the cocoa pebbles just demolished it, but I'm gonna let it strain and drip through because I want the smoothest, delicious cereal milk ever. And then I did it for all the other 4 of them, and as you can see, it looked so good. I was going for like this, I wanted it to be layered, right? I wanted it to be layered like Fruit Loops, but that did not work. So instead I got this rainbow collage situation, which to be fair, it kind of looks cool. It looks like an oil spill. Like if I was an artist, I'd be like, wow, that looks so cool. I think what really messed me up though is the brown, but look at it. It looks pretty cool, right? You can see the little spots of color. So yeah, I was like, you know, give it a spin, give it a twirl. It looks kind of ugly on the top, but it doesn't matter. And then when I mixed it up, you saw a rainbow for a very brief second, and then it turned out it looks like poop now. Or like sludge or sewage, whatever. But the taste was amazing. It tastes like Fruit Loops. It tastes like the best cereals combined together. Like it was actually delicious. And I'm not gonna lie, even though this looks horrendous, it looks like the black soup I tried to make a couple weeks ago for Elden Ring. It tastes so good. Like it actually tastes like cereal. And this milk cookie is amazing. 10 out of 10. Would repeat, would recommend. I still have a lot of dough left, so I'm probably going to keep making it for my friends, but it was really good. Like this is a really good experiment. The looks 0 out of 10, but the taste, it tastes like a really good bowl of Fruit Loops and Corn Flakes and Frosted Flakes mixed together. It tasted so good. Yeah. Next up, it's peanut butter jelly time, peanut butter jelly time, peanut butter jelly time. Okay, just kidding. But actually, we're going to be making peanut butter and jelly, but not in the way you think it is. Because, you know, a regular sandwich, it has the bread, and then it has your jelly, and then your peanut butter, and then the bread. What if it was the opposite way around? So one of the loaves of bread is actually jelly, and then the bottom one is peanut butter, and then the middle is the bread. At least that was the general idea of what I wanted to do. Whether or not the execution came out that way, stay tuned so you can find out how messed up it came out. Yeah. Either way, we're starting by making our jelly. I got some fresh red grapes. Well, they were fresh-ish. They're from Trader Joe's, but I got it fresh that day. Got the grapes. I'm literally taking it off the branches, throwing it in my blender, and just blending it. I added some food coloring to make it a little more grapey, more purple, to give it that, you know, that jammy, that je ne sais quoi jam color. Anyways, after you blend grapes, you have to filter it out. Otherwise, you're going to have like the skin in there and it's very nasty. Once you filter it, you get this nice, smooth, silky texture. The swirls you see, that's the food coloring, baby. Your poops are going to be purple. But yeah, I double filtered it so it was like extra smooth. And then this is the gelatin that I'm using. I got it off Amazon, don't ask me why. And you're gonna see me only put in 1 tab in here, but that's a lie. I had to go back and put in an additional 5 tabs just to have it set, and even then it was still too thick. So, you know, read the instructions and maybe do better than me, because I've never made anything gelatin before apart from like the jello in the packets. So yeah, next up we're making this like peanut butter jello mousse ganache situation. This is going to be really disgusting. Do you see how the peanut butter came out of the container? It looks very much like a certain part of something that I don't want to mention, but yeah, it was very gross. And it's just, peanut butter can be so nasty to work with. I'm not even gonna lie, like, it just looks very disgusting. Anyway, we're making the fudge. That's what I was looking for. We're making peanut butter fudge. So you have to melt it with some peanut butter and milk and a lot of gelatin sheets. And basically, I'm putting it in a pan. Don't make fun of my pan. My pan is old. It's been with me for a minute. You're gonna put it in the fridge. You're gonna let that set. Next, we're gonna make the bread part of our peanut butter sandwich. I'm using panko breadcrumbs because that is the crispiest breadcrumbs that I have. And I sprayed it very lightly with some oil and then toasted it in the pan until it started getting golden. You can kind of see it getting golden. And then I added honey because I love honey, and panko doesn't really taste like anything, so it needed some flavor. So it's like, you know, honey, people make honey PB&Js, I think. I don't know. I don't eat PB&Js. But yeah, I toasted it with some honey, and then I added a little butter. Well, it was a lot of butter, but it was a little butter. And then I took out everything from the fridge. As you can see, this is a jelly. It seems to firm up really nicely. You can see all my fingerprints in there because I've been poking it for a while, but the top looks very glossy. And then this is the peanut butter. It looks very ugly. It looks disgusting. It looks nasty. It looks very gross. But I started off by slicing it because it was the thinnest, and I trusted that this one was properly set because it was so thin. But yeah, it looks very nasty. I'm not gonna lie to you. Cut that up. Look at that thin sheet of bread that we got going on. I will say though, it actually tastes good. But peanut butter tastes good in general. But yeah, and then I started cutting the jelly, and here is where I messed up because I made it too thick. I don't know what was going on with me, but I made it way too thick, or maybe I should have used 10 sheets of gelatin. I don't know. I've never made gelatin dishes before. This was the first time for me, because when I picked it up and I was like, oh no, look at the back. The back is like, it looks like a fruit roll up that didn't quite set. But, you know, we moved. So I stacked up 2 sheets of the peanut butter, trying to get it to pretend to match the thickness, and it didn't really work. And here's my crust, or my bread. It's not as crispy anymore because I added butter because I thought it would crisp it up, and it did not. I was trying to make a compound butter. That's what I was trying to do. I was trying to make a compound butter, but I guess you're supposed to let the hot ingredients cool first because it didn't compound. It just melted. So, yeah. And then you can see my sandwich is struggling because it is really heavy. The jelly is so heavy, bro. The jelly is so heavy. It was just like falling apart every time I tried to pick it up. And I didn't show the spillage. Well, maybe I am showing it to you. But yeah, look at this train wreck. It just fell apart in my hands because the jelly was so heavy. So I made a slimmer one. I cut the jelly in half. And even then, it was just not holding together. I was going to make it a taco, but then I gave up. Anyways, I tried it, and surprisingly, it tastes like a PB&J. It actually tastes really good. Everything tasted good. It was just the texture is a little off-putting. So here, I like re-crisped up the panko, and I did it again. And I could see them serving this in a high-class restaurant and calling it like some fancy word for gelatine. Peanut butter and jelly gelatin. Yeah, so that one was like, it was like a 3 in execution and probably like a 5 in flavor. It wasn't that bad. It wasn't that great, but it wasn't that bad. Last but not least, we're mimicking, or gonna edit the Oreo x Coca-Cola collab because I tried it, and while the soda tasted chocolatey, I felt like they could have done a bit more. And then the cookies themselves were like pretty disappointing because I really wanted the icing to taste like Coke. I don't know how, you know, they could have done that, but that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna make chocolate soda, and then I'm going to make the icing taste like Coke and use the same cookie because I'm not baking Oreos from scratch. So let's get right into it. The first thing we're gonna make is the chocolate syrup for the chocolate soda. I'm pretty sure you could probably just buy your own chocolate syrup from the store. But again, I don't have stuff in my house. I only have ingredients to make things. So I added cocoa powder, some sugar, some water, and let it boil. And then added some vanilla powder or vanilla flavoring. I was supposed to let it get thicker, but listen, the way my day was going, I just didn't have the opportunity. So I kind of just let it combine-ish and then just quit and put it in a container because I figured I could always just add more chocolate syrup to my soda. So don't be like me and actually let it get syrupy. This is just like a very light hot chocolate. Next up, I'm gonna make the actual Coke syrup for the icing because I want it to be the flavoring. And basically, I poured, I think, like 5 or 6 cans of Coke Zero into the pot, and I really just wanted it to reduce down as much as possible. And you would not believe that there's basically nothing after all the water evaporates. So it took a long time to get enough syrup to get it for the buttercream. And for buttercream, it's literally butter. Don't be like me and actually soften your butter outside of the microwave, because when it was time to blend it, my butter was half frozen, half melted, so it literally just exploded everywhere. It exploded everywhere. It was very disgusting, and I had so much to clean up, which is very annoying. But anyways, have your buttercream. You make your buttercream about like halfway, and then you can see the Coke syrup. That is the syrup left from the Coke that I evaporated on the stove, and I just added it a little bit at a time because I think if I added everything at once, it would have just turned into like a soupy mess. It still kind of turned into a soupy-ish mess, but it's buttercream, so you just put it in the fridge and let it get hard again. And I'm not gonna lie to you, 6 cans of Coke reduced down into syrup. This buttercream, it tasted like Coca-Cola. I don't know what they put in it, but it tasted really good, actually. Like if they sold that in a bottle, I would buy it. I low-key wanted to just add soda water to see what would happen, but I didn't. And then here's the icing. Well, here's the buttercream after I added the Coke to it. As you can see, it is not white. It turned brown. But my piping is getting better. Do you see that? I made a flower, and I'm going to make another one. Well, it's like a shell. Let's call it a shell. Coca-Cola shell. And that one is just a poopy head. And this one looks like a very glorious poop. Ew, I should stop talking that. But yeah, no, it was fine. And then for the chocolates, syrup, after it cooled down, I just poured it in a container with ice, and then I added soda water. The online recipe said you could add seltzer or soda water. I couldn't find seltzer, so this is what I used. And yeah, as always, first bite. Actually, I haven't even fed you this whole episode, but I ate the Oreo and it tasted so much better because it tasted like Coke. And then I drank the chocolate soda, and the chocolate soda was okay. It was fine. I should have added Coke to it, but I didn't. It was fine. It tasted okay. So yeah, that is it. Thank you so much for watching. See you in the next one. Bye.